Fretboard visualization systems. There are so many ways to visualize this fretboard. In today's video, we're going to talk about 8 different ways. So the beauty of the guitar is that all you have to do is learn any one of these systems one single time in one single key, and by doing that, you can then play in any of the keys. Everything on the guitar is movable. If you have a little scale pattern that you play, which allows you to play in the key of, say, A minor, and that little scale pattern is played right here, and then you want to play in a different key, say you want to play in the key of B minor, you just move that little scale pattern up to here. Now you're playing in B minor. It's different notes, but the same pattern. If you want to play in, say, the key of F sharp minor, you just move that same pattern down to here. Now you're playing different notes, same pattern. So everything on the guitar is movable. That's the benefit of the guitar. Music theory, general music theory is much, much easier to understand on a piano. But this unique benefit of the guitar, this shape theory, this movable patterns theory, this is something that us guitar players have that piano players don't have. Another benefit that us guitar players have that piano players don't have is that we don't necessarily need to know all the notes of the fretboard to apply these different visualization systems. On the piano, you actually have to know your notes. On the guitar, if you just know your notes on the low E string and the A string, that's all you really need, and then you can apply all the stuff that we're going to be talking about here today in this video. I'm not saying not to learn all the notes of the fretboard. You definitely should. The more you know, the better. So at some point, I would encourage you to learn all the notes of your fretboard. But if you don't already know that, or if you don't have any intentions of ever doing that, that's perfectly fine. Everything that we talk about in today's video, the only requirement is to just know the notes of the low E string and the A string. That's what today's video is about. Hey guys, Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. So before getting into these 8 different systems, I just want to point out that there's a very clear distinction between layer 1 systems and layer 2 systems. Not everyone may refer to them as layer 1 and layer 2, but what I mean by layer 1 is we're talking specifically about the scale, the key. It doesn't really matter what the chords are, it's just the key that matters. If you're jamming with a band and the band says, hey, we're in the key of, say, A minor or something, or we're in the key of D major or something, that's the only information that you need to apply a layer 1 system. You just need to know the key. You don't actually have to know the chords. Layer 2 systems is about mapping out the chords, the arpeggios, the chord tones. Chords, 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 chords. That's what layer 2 is about. So the band may say, all right, we're in the key of A minor. And you say, all right, that's cool. A minor, what chords are you playing? They say, oh, okay, we're playing an A minor chord, an F major chord, and a G major chord. Those are the chords. You're like, all right, cool, I got the chords. I want to map out the notes of the A minor chord across the fretboard. I want to map out the notes of the F major chord across the fretboard. I want to map out the notes of the G major chord. That's layer 2 stuff. I'm going to move a little quick in this lesson because I have 8 different systems to talk about, and I don't want this video to be like 5 hours long. I've talked about all these different systems at length before on the Zombie Guitar website in the in-depth lesson portal. I have a whole section about layer 1 systems, and I have a whole section about layer 2 systems. So if you really want to dive into any one of these systems that I talk about today, that would be the place to look on the website. So let's get started. Visualization system number 1, the 5 pentatonic positions. So this focuses on the key. This isn't about the chords. This is a layer 1 system. This is what a lot of people get the cage system confused with. The cage system is actually a layer 2 system. The cage system is about chords. That is not the pentatonic positions. That's not the 5 pentatonic positions. The 5 pentatonic positions are, you're dividing the fretboard up into 5 distinct positions. All right. Pentatonic position number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say that the goal is to play in the key of A major. All right, the band says, hey, we're in the key of A major, take a solo. You want to map out the notes of the A major scale across the neck. We can use the 5 pentatonic positions to do so. So for a major key, you locate your reference position, your position number 1, with your pinky, not your index, your pinky. So it's the key of A major. You take your pinky, you place it on the note A because it's the tonic note. That's the scale root. The note A is right there on the 5th fret. So here's going to be pentatonic position number 1 for the key of A major. Pentatonic position number 2 is going to look like this. Pentatonic position 3. 4, 5, back at position 1 again. All right, so you have your 5 pentatonic positions. Those 5 pentatonic positions are going to be the exact same positions, the exact same shapes, the exact same patterns, exact same notes for the relative minor. For every major key, you have a relative minor key. For every minor key, you have a relative major key. How do you know what the relative major and minors are? You can use your circle of fifths. The outer circle is your major keys. The inner circle is your relative minor keys. So A major, the relative minor of A major is F sharp minor. So these 5 pentatonic positions are going to be the same notes for the F sharp minor pentatonic. The difference is you locate your first position with your index finger instead of your pinky. So minor, major. F sharp minor, find the note F sharp with your index finger, right there, 2nd fret. Here's pentatonic position number 1. Here's position 2. Here's 3. Here's 4. Here's 5. Then you're back at 1 again. So the pentatonic scale is 5 of the 7 total notes of what is known as the diatonic scale. So the A major pentatonic scale is 5 of the 7 total notes of the A major scale. The F sharp minor pentatonic scale is 5 of the 7 notes of the F sharp natural minor scale. So what we've done is we've mapped out 5 of the 7 total notes for this key that we're trying to play in. For each of these 5 positions, you can simply go ahead and add in the 2 additional notes to create the full diatonic scale. In position number 1, you have your 2 notes. In position number 2, you can add your 2 notes. In position 3, you add your 2 notes. 4, 5. Now you're back at 1. So now you have your 5 distinct positions of the fretboard. You can limit your playing to just pentatonic. You can play all 7 notes, and then you're going to have more notes to work with to create more melodic phrases and stuff like that using all 7 notes. Whatever you want to do, you have your 5 distinct positions. Those are the 5 pentatonic positions. Again, using the key of A major as our example, you have the same 7 notes, the same exact key that we started out with in number 1. You find your first pattern with your first finger, you put it on the note right here. So here's the note A. So here's pattern number 1. So it's the same 7 notes of the A major scale. It's just 3 notes per string. That's one of the patterns. The second pattern would then start right here. And this is your second pattern. Your third pattern would start right here. Your fourth pattern. Your fifth pattern. Your sixth pattern. And your 7th pattern. And then you're back at pattern number 1 again, which is up here. So again, we've done the exact same thing. We've just mapped out the A major scale. This was our reference position this time. This is the one we're calling position number 1. It's completely arbitrary. You could call this the A position. You can call this the B position, C position, D. You can call it whatever you want. That's why people commonly incorrectly say, okay, this is the Ionian mode position, or this is the Dorian mode position, or this is the Phrygian mode position. That's modes. That's something else. That's not what we're talking about here. Big common misconception. This is just the diatonic scale mapped out via the 7 patterns method. And then, of course, everything is exactly the same for the key of F sharp minor, since, as we already said, A major, F sharp minor, that's a relative major minor pair. They share the exact same notes. So these 7 patterns that we just looked at, instead of highlighting the note A within each of the patterns to indicate the tonic note, we could just highlight the note F sharp within each of the patterns to indicate the tonic note. So now it's the F sharp minor scale patterns that you're looking at as opposed to the A major scale patterns. Fretboard visualization system number 3, the 3 patterns approach. So for the same key, we're going to stay in the key of A major or F sharp minor, whatever you want to say. It's a relative major minor pair. Your first pattern, first of the 3 patterns, is going to be found for a major key. You locate it with your pinky. For a minor key, you locate it with your index finger. So here's your first pattern. This coincides with pentatonic position number 1. So here's pattern number 1 for A major, or for F sharp minor. And then pattern number 2 for A major, you locate it with your index finger. Right here, you put it on the note A. Pattern number 2. All right, for F sharp minor, and your F sharp minor is going to be right here. So this is your F sharp natural minor scale. So that's your pattern number 2. And then pattern number 3, this is going to coincide with pentatonic position number 4. You locate this pattern with your pinky for major, and then index for minor, locating your tonic note or your scale root on the A string. So find your note A on the A string with your pinky right here. So here's the A major scale. Or the same pattern could be used for F sharp minor. Index finger, put it on the note F sharp. And then you're back at pattern number 1 again, up here, which you locate with your pinky for the major, or with your index for the minor. So you can map out the entire diatonic scale using just 3 patterns, or you can use 5 patterns, or you can use 7 patterns. There's multiple ways to do it. Fretboard visualization system number 4. What we're doing here is we're looking at the fretboard via intervals. So if you know your scale formulas, and then you can just simply find the starting note, then you can play any scale. So if you want to play, say, the A major scale, you just have to find the note A, and then you have to know what the major scale formula is. And then if you know your intervals in relation to the 1, the A, the tonic, the tonal center, the home note, if you know your intervals in relation to that, then you can play your A major scale. So find your note A right here, right there on the 5th fret. So that's your 1. So the major scale formula is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you need to know where your 2, where your 3, where your 4, 5, 6, and 7 are in reference to number 1. So here's 1. So your 2 is always going to be a whole step higher than 1. Your major third, or your 3, is always going to be 4 half steps higher. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could also recognize that the third is always going to be found here as well. So you could play a 1, 2, 3 like this, or you could play a 1, 2, 3 like this. And then know where your 4 is. Your 4 is here. Know where your 5 is. It's here. Know where your 6 is. Know where your 7 is. And then you're back at 1. So knowing these intervals in relation to your 1, you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Back at 1. You could also know that, 1 is here, 2 is here, 3 is here, 4, 5. You can know that your 6 is here, 7's here. So you could essentially play this A major scale anywhere if you know your intervals in relation to the 1. So you can find any A. Again, I said if you don't know your notes on the upper strings, you could always reference it back to the lower pitch strings. So if this is an A, there's always going to be another A. You skip a string and then go up 2 frets. So there's another A. If you want to find the next A, skip a string and then go up 2 frets. So there's an A. So know this. So you have all these different A's to start at. So here's an A. So if I know where my intervals are in relation to the 1, my 1, 2, 3, I know that we already determined that it's this. 4. 4 and 5 are separated by a whole step. 5 and 6 are separated by a whole step. And then things get a little funky on the guitar once you get to the B string, so you're going to have to make a shift here. Or you know that 1, 2, and then your 3 can also be found like this. And then you have your 6 and 7. So 7 and then 1. So you can do this anywhere. So know your notes on the low E string, know your notes on the A string. That will allow you to find your roots anywhere. If you want to play, say, I don't know, the natural minor scale or something, if you want to play the A natural minor scale, you need to know your natural minor scale formula, which is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. Do the same thing. Find your A and then just find the intervals in relationship to the A. So here's the 1. We already know where the 2 is. The scale formula says it's a flat 3 now. Not a 3, it's a flat 3, so it's 1 less than a 3. So we already know about the 4 and 5 from the major scale. It's got a flat 6, so it's 1 less than the 6 that we were using in the major scale. And then instead of a 7, it's a flat 7. Then back at 1. So all you need to know is just where your tonic note is, where your scale root is, your home note, your tonal center. In this case, it was A. And then just know the scale formula. Then you apply the scale formula, and then you can play your scale anywhere on the entire fretboard. You could also do the same thing with any tonic note. So instead of having A as our tonic note, tonal center, home note, scale root, whatever you want to call it, instead of A, let's say you want to do it with G. So you want to play G types of scales: G major scale, G natural minor scale, G mixolydian scale, G Phrygian dominant, G harmonic minor, whatever. Every scale has its own scale formula. You just know the scale formula, write it down, get it tattooed on your arm, whatever you want to do. Get the scale formula, apply that to the starting note, the 1, and then you can play that scale. Know your tonic note, know the intervals, boom. Any scale you want to do. All right, so now we're going to look at some layer 2 systems. So layer 2 is about the chords, the chord tones, the arpeggios. It's all the same thing. It means the same exact thing. We're focusing on the chords now. The first 4 systems that we looked at in this video was all about the key. Didn't pay attention to the chords. The band is playing in the key of, say, A major, for example. You're like, all right, key of A major? Cool, gotcha. What chords are you playing now? And then they'll be like, oh, okay, well, the actual chords that we're playing an A major chord to an F sharp minor chord to a D major chord. That's the chord progression. You're like, all right, cool, got it. I need to map out the A major chord notes on the fretboard. I need to map out the F sharp minor notes on the fretboard. And I need to map out the D major chord notes on the fretboard. Because those are going to be my notes that I want to emphasize on a per chord basis as those chords are occurring in the rhythm section. So the cage system is one of these ways of doing that. The cage system is a layer 2 system. The whole premise of the cage system is that you have 5 shapes. You have a C shape, an A shape, a G shape, an E shape, and a D shape. So you can play any chord anywhere on the entire neck of the guitar. And I say any chord. Major chords, minor chords, diminished chords, augmented chords, 7th chords, major 7th chords, minor 11th chords, 13th chords, sus2 chords, whatever. You can play any chord anywhere on the entire neck of the guitar. All you need to know is where your root note is of the chord, find your root note, and then what the nearest available shape is. So let's say you want to play an A major chord right here. All right, I don't even know where I hit on the fretboard. Let me look. Oh, there's an A right there. So I have that A. So what shapes do I have available to me right there? So if my root is on the A string, according to the cage system, I have a C shape available and I have an A shape available. So I have an A major chord available to me like this. So this is an A major chord in the C shape. I also have an A major chord available in the A shape. So with the cage system, you don't need to play the full chord shape. I mean, you can if you want, but you don't have to. You're just identifying where the notes of the A major chord are based on the shape. The notes of an A major chord are the notes A, C sharp, and E. So these are your A's, C sharps, and E, which form this little shape right here. Using this shape, here's your A's, C sharps, and E, which form this little shape right here. So you can just play little pieces. You know, you can play the A major chord like this. You can play the A major chord like this. You can play the A major chord like this. You can play the A major chord like this, like this, like this, whatever you want to do. You just have these starting shapes. That's where the cage system comes into play. I just happen to be here on the fretboard, so I have a C shape available to me and an A shape available to me. If I wanted to play an A major chord down here, for example, okay, where's my nearest A at? I have an A right there. There's an A on the 5th fret. When the root is on the low E string, you have a G shape and an E shape available to you. So here's an A major chord in the G shape. Here's an A major chord in the E shape. All right, so I have those two shapes available to me in this area of the guitar. It's just A's, C sharps, and E's. You don't have to play these shapes in full. You're just mapping out the fretboard for an A major chord. That's it. That's all the cage system is for. It's just a way of visualizing chords. As I said, you can play any chord using the cage system. You don't have to just play major chords. The major chords are just the shapes that you start with. All right, so you have either a C, A, G, E, or D shape available to you at any spot on the fretboard. Once you have your starting shape, you can then make a manipulation to it. If you want to take a major chord and turn it into a minor chord, you have to know where the 3rd is within the shape. Lower the 3rd by half step. Now you got yourself a minor chord. So let's say I want to play an F sharp minor chord here. Where's an F sharp at? Find my note F sharp. Right there. Happens to be a note F sharp. All right, so there's an F sharp right there. So the shapes that are formed when your root is on the A string is a C shape or an A shape. All right, so I have an F sharp major chord like this in the C shape. I also have an F sharp major chord in the A shape, but I don't want an F sharp major chord. I want an F sharp minor chord. So I have to identify where the 3rd is. So for each of the 5 shapes in the cage system, you need to know which one's the 1, which one's the 3, which one's the 5. So here's a 1, here's a 3, here's a 5. All right, so if that's the 3, I just have to lower that by 1/2 step. Boom, F sharp minor chord. So what if I wanted to start with this shape? I need to know where the 1, 3, and the 5 are. So here's a 1, 5, 1, 3, 5. So I've identified where the 3 is. So take that 3, lower it by 1/2 step. Instant F sharp minor chord based off the A shape. That's all the cage system is. You have 5 starting shapes. You can play any chord anywhere on the entire neck of the guitar. Wherever you happen to be, say, okay, what shape's available to me? Is it the C, A, G, E, or D shape? Okay, got it. I got my starting shape. I'm now going to work with that shape to create the chord that I'm trying to play, whether it be minor, whether it be major, diminished, augmented, whatever. That's how the cage system works. Fretboard visualization system number 6 is the 3-note triad clusters. So anywhere that you have your root note, you're always going to have a 3 and a 5 nearby. And then, of course, if you want to take that and turn it into a minor triad cluster, you'll take that 3 and you'll lower it by 1/2 step, resulting in a 1, a flat 3, and a 5. So if your root is on the low E string, your 3 is always going to be on the next string and then 1 fret back. And then your 5 is going to be on the next string and 2 frets back. So there's a major triad cluster. What if I wanted to play a minor chord using that same, 1, 3, 5? So 1, the 3 has to get lowered by 1/2 step, so 1 flat 3, 5. So here's a minor. If your root is on the A string, so you have your root, your 3rd, and then you have a 5th up here, so root, 3rd, 5th. Making that a minor, you just take your 3rd, lower it by 1/2 step, so 1 flat 3, 5. You also have a 5th on the string this way, so if this is your 1, here's a 5 here, here's a 3. So here's a little triad cluster here. Or if you want to make a minor version of that, just be aware of where your 3 is, lower that by 1/2 step. So here's a minor triad cluster. So if your root note is on the D string, so let's say our root note is right here, so here's the 1, the 3 is going to be here, the 5 is going to be here, making that into a minor chord, lower the 3rd by 1/2 step. Or you can do the same thing and find the 5 on the lower pitch string, or minor chord. Alright, if your root is on the G string, here's your 1, here's your 3, here's your 5, make it a minor chord, lower the 3rd. Or if you wanted to do a 1, a 3, and then a 5 down here, make it a minor chord. If your root is on the B string, here's your 1, your 3 is going to be here, and then here's your 5 down here. So here's a 1, 3, 5. Make that into a minor, just take your 3rd, lower it by 1/2 step. Alright, so you can do those little triad clusters anywhere. I just used notes starting on the 5th fret for this, but whatever your root is, make G major chords, make G minor chords, make A major chords, make A minor chords, whatever. Just find your root note, and then find your 3 and your 5 relative to that root note. The shapes are going to be the same no matter where you happen to be. All you need to know is where the 3 and the 5 are relative to the 1 based on which string your root is found on. Fretboard visualization system number 7. I call this the pentatonic on-off method. Alright, so we already talked about in visualization system number 1, we talked about mapping out the scale, the layer 1, mapping out the 5 pentatonic positions. So you have your 5 pentatonic positions, and then for each of those 5 pentatonic positions, you have 2 notes that are missing. If you go ahead and you add in those 2 notes, then you have your full 7-note key scale, your full diatonic scale. So the whole objective of the pentatonic on-off method is that depending on what types of chords, and when I say types of chords, I'm talking about within the key, is it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 chord? So depending on if it's a 1 chord, a 2 chord, 3, 4, 5, or 6, you're either going to be playing pentatonic notes to target the chord tones, or you're going to be playing one of the notes that's a non-pentatonic note in order to target the chord tones. Essentially, you can figure this all out with your circle of fifths. So we're in the key of A major. That's what we've been using for the majority of this lesson, which is also the same key signature as F sharp minor. So key of A major, key of F sharp minor. If you use your circle of fifths, you can find your 3 major chords and 3 minor chords that are found in that specific key. The grouping of 6 on the circle of fifths will give you that information. So the 2 chords that are in the center of the grouping of 6, your A major chord, your F sharp minor chord, the chord tones are always going to be part of the pentatonic scale. All right. So the A major chord, the chord tones of the A major chord are A, C sharp, and E. So you can see all your A's, C sharps, and E's, they're all part of this pentatonic framework. All right. Looking at the chord tones of the F sharp minor chord, again, the notes of an F sharp minor chord are the notes F sharp, A, and C sharp. Those are all pentatonic notes. So if the objective is to target chord tones of the A major chord or the F sharp minor chord, and you just stick to just the pentatonic notes, you just focus on pentatonic, there's a very good chance that you're going to be chord tone targeting. You're going to be effectively hitting chord tones of the A major chord or the F sharp minor chord just by sticking to pentatonic. So we're left with 4 other chords now of the 6 total chords that are found in this key. 3 major chords, 3 minor chords. All right. There's 7 chords in any given key. One of the chords is a diminished type of chord. We're not talking about that right now. We're just talking about the 3 major chords, 3 minor chords found in this particular key. So we already know that the center chords in the grouping of 6 on the circle of fifths, those are going to coincide with the pentatonic scale. The 2 chords that are on the counterclockwise side of the grouping of 6, which in this case is the D major chord and the B minor chord, one of the 2 additional non-pentatonic notes is going to be a chord tone. So that specific chord tone is always going to be just outside of the pentatonic scale in this direction, in the direction of the bridge. So if this is your A major pentatonic scale or F sharp minor pentatonic, So if you want to jump out of the pentatonic scale but still remain in key and be targeting a chord tone of either the D major chord or the B minor chord, you have to jump out of the pentatonic scale and you want to target this note right here. All right, so that's a chord tone of both the D major chord and the B minor chord. So that's gonna, anytime a D major chord happens, target that note and you're gonna have a nice connection with that D major chord. Anytime a B minor chord happens, again, target that note, you're gonna have a nice connection with the B minor chord. All right, that note can also be found outside of the pentatonic scale. Again, one half step out in this direction. This is going to work for any of the pentatonic positions. All right, we're just in pentatonic position number 1 here. Again, that's for the chords in the grouping of 6 that are found in the counterclockwise direction. Then you just have the 2 remaining chords that are found in the clockwise positioning of the grouping of 6. So those 2 chords, if you want a chord tone target for those, again, you could jump out of the pentatonic scale by 1/2 step, but you're going to do so in this direction this time. So we're in the key of A major, we're in the key of F sharp minor. If an E major chord happens to pop up in the progression, or a C sharp minor chord happens to pop up in the progression, and you don't want to have to worry about targeting all of the notes of the E major chord or all of the notes of the C sharp minor chord, but you still want a chord tone target so that your lead playing is going to sound connected to the underlying rhythm section, you just target one single note. That one single note is found outside of the pentatonic scale, 1/2 step that direction. So your pentatonic framework, so right here. So that note right there, that's a chord tone of the E major chord. That's also a chord tone of the C sharp minor chord. Same thing. 1/2 step outside of the pentatonic scale in that direction. It's the simplest way to connect your playing with the chord changes because it doesn't require you to know all of the chord tones of every chord. The chord tones are constantly changing as the chords are changing, and for your brain to be able to keep up with the changes, it's not always easy. When you do this approach, you just need to know pentatonic on or pentatonic off. If it's pentatonic off, which of the 2 notes are you focusing on? So then you just have to go and you have to just study each of the 5 pentatonic positions. Where are the 2 notes found at in this position, in this position, in this position, this one, this one. So study each of the 5 positions, find where that specific note is that's going to allow you to chord tone target for the counterclockwise chords and the clockwise chords. Do this one time for one single key. It may not happen overnight. It may take you a couple weeks, couple months, whatever. But really give this system some, put some effort into understanding this, and then you can do it for any key. And then fretboard visualization system number 8, this is where you focus purely on intervals of each chord. Visualization system number 4, we did a similar thing. We focused on intervals of each scale. So we were only focusing on the scale, the layer 1, the overall key scale, which can be done by thinking in terms of intervals. Now we're just doing it on a per chord basis. So the 1, the note that you're declaring as the 1, is going to be the chord root, not the scale root, the chord root. So the band could be playing in the key of A major, and you're jamming along in the key of A major, but when you go to locate your 1, you're not always going to be looking for the note A. The note A, if it's the A major chord that's occurring at the moment in the rhythm section, then yes, that's going to be your 1. But if the rhythm happens to be an A major chord to an F sharp minor chord to a D major chord, the note that you're declaring as the 1 is going to change as the chords do. So over the A major chord, find your note A. That's your 1. All right, so I have my 1. I know where my 3 is in relation to the 1. I also have a 3 here. So I know where my 1, 3, and 5 are. 1, 3, 5, or 1, 3, 5, or 1, 3, 5, whatever. I know where my 1s, 3s, and 5s are. When the chord then changes in the rhythm section to an F sharp minor chord, my 1 is now going to be the note F sharp. So I have to find my F sharps. Here's an F sharp here, here's an F sharp here, there's an F sharp there. So I have to find my 1, my minor third, and my 5. So 1, minor third, 5. Or 1, minor third, 5. Or 1, minor third, 5. Whatever. or 1, minor third, 5. Whatever it takes, the 1 is now the F sharp. Then when it switches to the D major chord, again, my 1 is going to be the note D. So here's my 1. That could also be my 1. That could be my 1. Any note D on the whole fretboard is now your 1. Find your intervals with respect to the 1. And that's basically the way that you're approaching soloing over the chord changes. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. As I said, I've talked about all these different systems in depth. Everything is on the Zombie Guitar website. You can go right into the in-depth lesson portal. You want to learn about the layer 1 systems, go into that section. You want to learn about the layer 2 systems, go into that section. The course is on the Zombie Guitar website. It's all shape-based theory if you want to learn, the pentatonic scale, the diatonic scale, chord tone targeting via shapes and patterns. That's what all the courses are for and stuff like that. So yeah, stop by, check that stuff out. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.